Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week, it's going to be the turn of the singer, songwriter, keyboard player and drummer. It is going to be the one and only Mike Gallo, or sometimes Mike S Gallo, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Was in a band titled or called 2020, who were based, an American power pop band based in Hollywood, California. From the late 70s to the early 80s, Mike has gone on to do lots of other bits and pieces that you're going to find out more about in this fascinating interview. So we're going to cut the chat and get right down to it. So after several minutes of casual but interesting chat that we edit out, I got down to that very exciting subject that was the early formative years and that musical moment that could change everything. Mike, it's over to you.
I'll tell you what it was is I heard Love Me Do in 63. I always loved music. I would just hear music, but I won't go ahead of myself. But I heard She Loves You came on the radio. I fell on the floor, and for the first time, I didn't know what was going on. I got the goosebumps. I never got the goosebumps from music before. And I always loved music, but they were speaking to me. And this is before any of the hype or this is like November, October of 63. And my major was always art. I was like 10 years old when that happened. But in school, I took various instruments, but I never took it seriously because, put it this way, when I would take lessons, I would play what they played. And then the teacher took the sheet music away and I was still playing it. And she goes, I don't know if you're learning, but you sure got a good ear because you played just what I played. And so I go, well, this is, I'm young now. This is like 12 years old. And so I just said, all right. Then I just wanted to, I used to go next door to the neighbors and just bang on their piano. And she was the teacher, the girl. And she goes, you got such a good ear. And I would just make chords. And I didn't know, I thought anybody could do that. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't really know. It was just innocent. Like, it just came to me.
And did either of your parents or grandparents, were they musical at all? Did they?
No. Well, oddly enough, my father was an amazing harmonicist, and my mom was a great singer. But as far as a piano in the house or any of that, no. I bought a set of drums, and I snuck them into the third floor attic, and I would skip school. They would go to work, and I would play the Who and play to the radio, the drums,
right.
Shit set of drums. But I went to college for my parents, and I knew, I remember walking across the tundra, the frozen mud here in Buffalo, knowing I'm just going to finish this school, and go to LA, start a band.
Mm-hmm.
Never was in a band in Buffalo. I didn't want to be in a cover band. And so the band I started, I just knew, I don't know, I didn't think that, as I said, I just knew I had something. And I knew I could do a band. And the first band I started, we got a record deal. So what a dream. I mean, I was like in dreamland. I'm like, could this be real? And all my friends here, right, Dave? Yeah. They're like, holy shit. this guy, I never was in a band. I didn't want to do covers.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were there right when it started. You had the Beatles, but did you sort of, when you heard that kind of riff from the Kinks,
Oh my God, it really got me. I mean, oh my God, I remember the first time I ever heard that on the radio. I was in my mom's backseat of the car, and I went wild on that.
Yeah,
that
was produced by Shel Tammy, wasn't it?
Pardon?
That was produced by.
And he wanted to produce. I got to talk to you. What? I don't know. He was going to produce. He wanted to produce 2020. He did. Steve Lillywhite did. Phil Spector. I'll tell you about that story. And the thing with CBS is they didn't want a British producer. They only wanted an American producer. So the only thing I could think of is Pet Sounds and how fantastic it sounded. And I read that Earl Mankey was the engineer on that. Now, so we got him to produce. The truth of the story is he is a good engineer, but what a producer does that I thought, I wanted to be blown away.
Yeah.
That he wasn't doing. In all honesty, I really literally half produced that record. Like the end of Tell Me Why, all the midsection of Yellow Pills, all the kind of etherealness I could put in there. It was me, it wasn't Earl. I would bring albums in for him to like try to duplicate certain guitar sound or snare sound or whatever on the vocals. That's how it went. I would bring albums in and say, Earl, this is what I like to get. Stevie Ron didn't know much about the bigger scope of music. So
yes.
I brought that element.
So did you, when you were going through that 60s period, did you suddenly have that moment where you said 63, then you had things like the Kinks and the Who? Did you, by 67, had you started to embrace that whole, the counterculture world of, you know, psychedelics and psychedelia and Jimi Hendrix? And, you know, in January 67, you had the gathering tribes. And
I'm going to go fast forward. I ended up in the 80s being friends with Mitch Mitchell. He ended up moving in with my bass player, radio music, and he lived there in his house for a year. I was friends with him. He has my snare drum. I don't know where, you know, he died. The thing was, I was always buying. I worked in a record store. There's my first job was a paper board. My second was a record store. So I was able to order, import, and whatever. I mean, I loved the music magazine. So I was like, well, for instance, The Move should have been huge here. I heard from word of mouth, from what I found out, is people were trying to keep The Move from breaking in America because they thought it was a threat to the Beatles. And this is a true story. I met a lot of A&R people right away in 75 when I first moved to LA. My life is crazy. I mean, like in 77, I met Kim and Rodney and Greg Shaw, and I was in the studio when the Runaways were recording Cherry Bomb.
Right.
I don't even know what I've done with my life, but let me back up. So I love music, and the Beatles broke up, and I got the first jazz album, and John's vocal melodies I'm going, thank God, because he gave me the goosebumps again, and I felt like there was hope. John, I ended up meeting him in what year was that? 71 June. I went to see Yes. They opened for Tull, and we ended up by coincidence staying where Yes were staying. So I went down for breakfast, and John is in front of me, and we became friends. And he invited me to come see them record at Fragile. I was there when Rick Wakeman first walked in the door, and I'm going, "You were in the Straubs. I don't know what you're doing here, but." I mean, he goes, and then he goes, I go, where are you coming from? Because he was in the middle of the night, 4 a.m. He goes, oh, I'm working on an album by a guy you never probably heard of. I go, who? He goes, David Bowie. I go, I heard of. I go, I got the first album in Canada on Durham. I fucking love him. And, you know, he goes, you heard of him? I'm going, yeah. Because he was doing Hunky Dory.
Yes. There you go. Yes, Rick Wakeman was definitely the early sort of member of Life on Mars, wasn't he, actually?
Right. I mean, God, tell me about a song.
I know.
Oh, my God.
It was amazing.
On that.
But the interesting thing is, Bowie's kind of early career in the 60s, you know, he had all these kind of beat bands and sort of
Mark
combos.
Mark Bolan.
Yes, and then he had an acoustic kind of band called The Feathers with Hermione.
Like before the first album?
Yes. So he was in a... So if you sort of if you sort of look at his kind of work just before he gets into being David Bowie in the 70s, he's in something called Feathers, and that's and that's kind of that period where he's gone into folk mode, completely folk. So he's got his girlfriend Hermione, who he sort of falls in love with, and she breaks his heart, and then his best friend John Hutchinson as well. But then. And then he starts to develop Space Oddity, and then he sort of meets Angie, and then he has Tony DeFries, and then suddenly, you know, the Ziggy Stardust thing starts to appear. But so that's kind of, it's just kind of interesting. You met
Dave, I remember something that really blew me away. He did an interview in Melody Maker around right after the second album wasn't out yet. And he goes, I'm going to be huge. I'm really going to be huge. And I'm going, and I thought so too, but I'm going, how wild for someone to say that. But I knew he was too. I got this gift. That's a whole nother story.
Yes.
But I just thought, oh my God, I can't believe he's saying this in Melody Maker. I'm going to be huge. He said, it's literally, this is in the interview. And I go, you are. I know that. And he did.
Yes. Well, I think
this is like early on.
Yes. Well, I think he had been trying for so long, and then he had, Angie, who gave him this kind of push, and then Tony DeFries,
Right.
the main man, music, that also gave him this push, and he was just desperate for it. But he
it's
also
so sad we lost. We're losing geniuses, and it's tough because the way the industry is right now, it's real. There's still got to be musical geniuses, but I don't want. This is a whole different story, but I'm not sure if the internet has helped us or not.
It's tricky.
It really is confusing. It's a blessing and a curse. There's Pro Tools, because there's just so much out.
Yes,
and everybody's trying to raise their hand. Look at me. But before, you had to go through a label, A&R people, and now you don't. So everybody can make a record. That's a good thing, but also is a bad thing.
Yes. So when we got to 1970, and you're still young, and you're about to say, look at me, then we had the death of Brian Jones, and then the following year, Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin. We also had Charles Manson and Altamont. The 60s kind of didn't end brilliantly, did it? Did you feel like when you woke up, and then after that, how did you sort of feel about that kind of, oh God, it was 67, Summer of Love, we had Woodstock. It was
horrific. Dave, it was horrific. Well, first of all, I don't like the Stones after Brian left. I don't like the magic was gone. What I liked about them, yes, they have some great songs, but this is like the trick and the chemistry of bands. When he left, to me, it was just different Rolling Stones. Now, yes, I have some of those albums are quite good.
Exile on Main Street.
Yes, exactly. And so was Sticky Fingers.
Let It Bleed.
The Brian Jones era of the Stones is a way different band. Don't you think?
Yeah, it's definitely, but it's just interesting that the Mick Taylor years had that kind of 4 years, all those albums. And then when he leaves, Ronnie takes, and it's really not good for me.
No, same to me. Now, weird story. I'm going to float around here because my life is very complicated. But so when Mitch was living with Bill Millay, my bass player of radio music up in the hills, he had a party, and all of a sudden it was, who was there? Ronnie Lane, two of the Small Faces, which I fucking love. I'm like, what the hell, Mitch? But me and Mitch were just like friends. I don't idolize anybody. If only Lennon and Gabriel, that's about it. And Patty McClune is a songwriter. So they were just peers, but it was just a freak. I'm like, I would never expect that I'm going to be in a party with Small Faces, but Mitch knew all these people. So,
yes.
But no, I know. So you're like saying when Ronnie Lane joined the Small Faces, you weren't so fond of that.
No, when Ronnie
Ron Wood
joined the Rolling Stones, it wasn't. They never really had that kind of magic, and somehow
Mick Taylor was okay though with them.
He was brilliant. That period of Exile, Sticky Fingers, Let It Bleed were just the best albums ever.
I totally agree. Right. So the Rolling Stones, yes, that's about where I think that's where about I left off them after Mick Taylor left.
Yeah, and there was the Graham Parsons influence, and there was all that kind of recording of Exile in the south of France at Nalcott. It was just a kind of great story. It was a good story. But how then, early 70s, when did you decide, right, you're going to leave home, leave college, and your next part of your journey?
75.
75.
Well, here's how it went. So I really was close to John Anderson, And I didn't play guitar because I broke my elbow playing football. So I can't make a bar chord. I can't play guitar, but I can play keyboards and I hear the melodies. And John would come in with the microtape. And that's how he wrote. He wrote parts and he sang them on microtape. And I go, I could do that. And from that, that was like, Dave, what, August? Yeah, August when they were recording Fragile. I came home. I started using 2 cassette decks and microtapes. I would come up with melodies in the car, just sing them, come home. Didn't have 4-track or anything, just used 2 cassette decks mounted and back and forth. The first song I wrote was Incubator Baby.
Right.
Because I was an incubator for 2 months and I had just found out.
I mean,
yeah, it is. I still have it, but
amazing.
So that, I'm just saying, so I just got encouraged by John and go, this is what I could do. I mean, I hear the music, I hear all these parts. John doesn't play guitar like that, and et cetera, et cetera. And he really was the touchstone for me, getting the confidence to be able to continue and actually go, I could do this. I could do it the way he's doing it. I can't play the guitar, but he sang the parts. The lead, a lot of the lead guitar on 2020, I'm actually singing the notes to Steve, and that's how I did it.
Right. So you embraced that kind of world that we became known as prog rock, really, didn't you? That kind of world of, because you mentioned Peter Gabriel, so you went through a Genesis phase as well.
So the Gabriel thing is, I got Trespass and Elton John on import at the record. I ordered them at the store I worked at. And now we didn't get Empty Sky, so it was Your Song, Elton John album, and Trespass. I went back to Dave, you were with me. I went back to my girlfriend's house and I played them going, holy shit, these guys are gonna be huge. I just blew my mind, Trespass and our first Elton John album. So in college, I was on the music committee and I brought Genesis because I wanted to see him. The first time I played America, I paid $750 for Genesis to play my college, and I picked them up at the airport. We played pool. Me and Gabriel became friends. Me and him went out for pizza a lot, and that was, what was that album? Southern England by the Pound album, right? Another part of that was they did Leon Lies Down Here. I'm with, I called Peter up. I'm out with them. I'm in the elevator, and he's telling me they had done, after the show in Buffalo, I went back to the hotel. I'm in the elevator with them, and he's telling me that he's leaving Genesis. I'm going, I go, no, you can't leave Genesis. I'm like, he goes, you're the first person I told. I go, are you serious? Because I haven't told the band yet. I'm telling them tomorrow. Now, he said, and I knew it, too many people were screaming Gabriel at these shows here.
Yeah.
And he goes, and we're arguing because the band does write 90 or 80% of the music. I don't know exactly myself. I wasn't there for the writing. And he goes, and we're arguing a lot because they're jealous or whatever was going on, that he's getting all the attention. So he decided to leave. What a weird position to be in that elevator. I don't know. And I wasn't happy about it. But Lamb Lies Down on Broadway blew my mind, and then I found out he's leaving. So
yes, that was disappointing. So look, so prog rock. Because to be honest, I got an older brother who was 7 years older. He was really into prog, so I got into and Genesis and Wishbone Ash, Barclay James Harvest, and the solo work of Rick Wakeman as well. So I know all the albums really well. But you also mentioned Elton John, because there was the album he got, which was Yellow Brick Road, which was absolutely stunning piece of work.
Oh my God, yes. That changed a lot. At first he was a great singer-songwriter, but Yellow Brick Road was a masterpiece. Absolutely a masterpiece. from beginning to the end.
I know the last track is one of my favorites, Harmony.
Mine too. Totally. You get the goosebumps. I do.
Oh, absolutely. The melancholic vibe of that song is just incredible.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's the one. I always play that, and
yeah,
I love.
Really, I just bought a remaster of it. I wish they really did a good job with the remastering, but yeah, that album blew my mind.
So, did you get to see Elton when he played the Whiskey A Go Go in LA?
I didn't know because I was from Buffalo when he played the Whiskey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, I've got you.
I saw him in here though with 2,500 people. Small,
yes,
pretty small. So he was wearing red hot pants, corduroy with what was it? The suspenders. That era.
Right, I do love Roy Rogers as well, which is a great song.
Yeah.
But then, and as the 70s was progressing, we had the kind of the prog rock, which is some serious musicians. How did you feel about that glam world? You had David Bowie, but you had Alice Cooper, and then the New York Dolls, and those kind of sort of punky glam bands.
Well, the thing was, I was into Tyrannosaurus Rex when they had Tyrannosaurus Rex albums, the first two. So I already loved Mark Bolan. I couldn't understand. I thought I was singing in a different language, but I already was into Tyrannosaurus Rex. The glam thing, the 70s had so many elements. We had prog, we had glam. It was even, really, punk was starting with the Ramones, New York Dolls. Some people say the 70s was horrible music, but there was so much variety of what transitioned from the 60s to the 70s, like all these different veins, all these different tentacles. Yes. There's something for everybody. And I like Alice Cooper and Sweet. And, I did, as well as the Raspberries and, of course, Big Star. All this was going on at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. So then when did you transition from Buffalo to LA and sort of start to set yourself in a different city?
October 15th, 1975, I left Buffalo. I somehow, a friend of mine from college here also moved to LA, and he ended up working for Bop magazine. So I met Greg Shaw. Through Greg Shaw, I put an ad in for guitar player wanted. I already had started writing songs with a guitar player. One of them was I Need Somebody, which I'll get to, which we recorded, which was going to be the first single off the first 2020 album.
Yeah.
But I already had met somebody. He kind of flipped out and went back to was from Muscatine, Iowa. So anyways, Steve answered an ad I had in the back of Bop magazine, Steve Allen, and we clicked. So it was just me and Steve, and we were writing songs for about 8 months. I'm just gonna be honest. He said he had a friend that played bass, but they would butt heads a lot. So anyways, Ron came out, and I go, we need a bass player. It's just me and you, Steve. I'll play drums, play guitar. We're in my bedroom. I was putting all the sofas against the windows so we wouldn't get evicted. Ron came out. I heard them two sing together. I'm going, no. And I told Steve aside. I said, no. I said, we got to do it. He'll mellow out. It's a band. It's not just you and him. Because I said, I was finding a combination of two vocals that works like this, because you've already done this together in cover bands. I said, we have to do it. So Ron was in the band. So it was like me, Steve, then Ron. So what happened after that, I got drums and wires and Gary Newman replicas and blah, blah, blah. I go, I want a bigger sound. We were almost going to get signed as a 3-piece. We would have, I think. But I just wanted to add keyboards and a 3-part harmony and another guitar, because I was so into drums and wires. And I wanted to get that 2-guitar thing going on, as well as a bit of birds. So I had at least 40 auditions after. It was me, Steve, and Ron, and probably 40-something auditions. And Chris was just the right temperament and just fit in like a glove. So that was that. So that was the beginning. Sure, we got a record deal within a year and a half or less, the four of us.
Yes.
Quite fast, actually. I remember saying to Ron, we're going to get a record deal. He goes, no, we're not. No, we're not. I'm going, wait, Ron, I wouldn't be in this if we weren't. I'm going to waste my time. So I'm just telling you the truth. This is the truth.
Yes.
I don't know.
I mean, because the band, this was like 76, 77. Was there a little bit of actually the musical landscape is slightly changing. People are getting more into punk at this stage than wanting, a kind of a clean cut like band like the Eagles or, Fleetwood Mac. I mean, they were all right, but there was another band. I remember there was Clover. There was a band called Clover that had Huey Lewis in.
Oh, yeah,
and they were about to make it, and it's like punk appeared, and it's like, and people like Niels Lofgren, it was like, oh, they're good, but it's not really what the kids are wanting to listen to. And actually, the first Elvis Costello album featured the back.
Oh, that blew my mind, yes.
But that had the members of Clover were his backing band on that album, and then he got the Attraction.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So I just wonder how you were thinking, God, this is great. And then you went, oh my God, here's the Ramones, here's the Sex Pistols. Now we've got the Clash, and actually all the record guys are all wanting to go.
Now, right. Now, here's a quick story. I worked for CBS for a bit. In 1977, we made a convention. What's it? Well, I forget her name. Oh, something Penny. Penny Smith.
Patti Smith?
Not the artist. She was a writer, and she brought me to see the Clash rehearse.
Right.
And me and Mick and Joe went for Chinese food, and they weren't on Columbia yet. And I brought them to the convention, all the round tables. Teddy Pendergrass was playing. Of course, they stood on the tables, were acting like punks. Long story short, that was in July. And in December, my boss said, do you want to do music or do you want to work for us? Because you got a choice. I go, I want to do music. What's ironic thing is we get signed, 5 labels start bidding on us, and Lenny Pizzi was the president. We get signed to the same label that I got fired from. And right then, and we played the Whiskey, and I knew Petsy was it? I'm trying to think of his name. Whoever was the president then comes on stage at the Whiskey and says, this is the first time someone that worked for the label got signed. And it was funny. I mean, because I got fired and nothing signed me, but different way. I'm working for them.
Yes.
What are the odds of that? But they gave us the best offer. They gave us a really, really good deal.
Right.
I screwed up, though, Dave. Because why? I did. Because the last thing on my mind, it was like any 2 members of the band could be 2020. Now, I trusted them. I'm going to cut to the chase. So I was dealing with my sexuality, and I came out during the recording of the album. So I'm going to let you talk, but that became a problem.
Right.
Because I was getting hassled by one of the members, called homophobic names. It wasn't fun. I was very high. I was humiliated and embarrassed. And I'm supposed to be playing drums with this person. And the people behind the glass couldn't hear what was being said to me. Only I. Very difficult.
Yes.
Because it was difficult enough to be, this was 1979, not 2022. And our manager, had a meeting with me, Steve, and Ron, and Chris, and told me I cannot be openly bisexual or gay. That's what they told me. So
when David, just a few years before that, when David Bowie said, I'm bisexual, and everyone was like, ooh, but brilliant at the same time, but quite a big moment. I mean, did that not filter through the kind of vague rock world?
He's the one he's the one that gave me the confidence and courage to do that. But my manager said, but that's England. We're in America. And they were trying to push us because I guess they thought we were cute. They go, this isn't going to be good for the girls. I mean, so it was painful. I mean, I had to pretend. I'm not good at pretending.
No,
you know?
no, absolutely. And I mean, I suppose there's all the actors in Hollywood who were also having to pretend as well. So there was a lot of pretense at that time.
I know. And this is 1979.
Yeah.
But particular, I mean, Stephen Ron, I better shut up. I'm not having problems, but the other guys were fine.
Yes.
I don't mention names. I don't need any problems. But
no, absolutely. But it obviously didn't. Yes, because people forget at that time if no sports people, men basically, could come out as gay because there was one in England. I think it was there was probably more than one. But Justin Fashion, who was this player, and he said, "I'm gay," and basically
was this early on?
Well, no, this was in the 80s, but he unfortunately, kills himself in the end because it never goes well, does it? And people forget that the abuse that people got, and the papers in this country would almost like if they knew somebody was gay, they would really blackmail them and say we're gonna sort of out them, and then they'd out them and destroy their life. So people forget how horrendous that period was.
Okay, I'm going to cut to something that is very difficult. Dave was there. So after this problem we recorded the album, Steve and Ron come over. I'm trying to deal with my sexuality. I was drinking. They brought a piece of paper, and they gave me $1,200, and I thought that I was signing like a receipt for a royalty check. It ended up being that I signed my publishing to them. We had, I'm going to say this, and everybody knows, not everybody, but me, Steve, and Ron had a 3-way publishing deal between us, just us three. They can, Shelly, our manager, they convinced me to just have Allen Flynt, like Lennon McCartney. My name's like wherever. I'm like the George Harrison. And I'm going, oh, that's okay. Because the money's divided 3 ways, and I don't care. I just want to make music.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. So I didn't care about that. But later, after we recorded the album, what was going on is they were getting some offer from BMG, I guess, and to get me whatever I signed made it so I wasn't going to get a third of whatever they got, which I think was 30,000. I don't want to say too much. I don't know, but I got 1,200. I don't know. I thought I was just signing. I was living on cheese and crackers at this moment, and I thought I was just signing a receipt for the $1,200. I only recently, to be honest, realized what's going on because I haven't received a penny for anything. Not that I care that much about, it's not that much money, but it's the integrity. And how could you do that to me? I would never do that to somebody. Take advantage of them, have them sign. Who the hell would sign their publishing away for $1,200? I was in the music business long enough to know that, Long story short, so I don't know what they did, but 10 years, 1990, I got a publishing deal of my own with Warner Chappell. Right. And then that person died, passed away. But very intricate. I should write a book, people say, but so I got a publishing deal on my own, but I didn't realize till only about, what is it, Dave? Because Dave was there when they did this, my best friend. He lived with me. Now he bought a house 8 blocks away from my house. Yeah. But he was there, and I didn't know what I was signing. I was drunk, and I would never think these people, that it was really one in particular, but there was 2 people there.
Yes, absolutely.
And I would never think they would do something like this to me. Long story short,
no.
The integrity, they can fix it in a day. I mean, but
yes,
it was painful to realize what they did. They helped me remember.
That's not a good one.
You got a scoop there.
I got it. Yeah, I know. Well, it does. I mean, unfortunately, it does happen. But I mean, skullduggery. I know
It
Hunter S.
is.
Thompson had a great line about the music industry and various things, and it's not a pleasant business. So when you had that, but you didn't realize what you had done, then when you started to make the second album, this is because 2020 is your first album. The second one is Look Up.
Right. Well, here's what happened. They started doing the second album, and Steve wanted me to come down to the studio because he said the magic was gone. I said, I'm not coming down to the studio. I'm not in the band anymore. So a week later, he asked me if he could use part of the song me and him wrote together called I Fall Out, which became Night I Heard Her Scream, which I think is the best song on the album. I go, sure, as long as you give me credit. Well, it came out, and my name's not on that. So once again, but what I did is just hibernated, became recluse, to be honest, and just bought some, tape decks and and equipment and started writing and recording, and started radio music, the second band, and we opened for you too.
Yes.
They asked Paul McGinnis heard my tape, and
yes.
It was the first time they played LA, and they asked if we would open, and I said, "You damn right I will. You're going to be huge." And I hung out with them for the whole day.
So, what was the name of your second album? Second band that you started?
I never released anything yet, but I'm going to. It was radio music.
Right.
One word, radio music.
Radio music, my God. So when the 80s appeared, because this is a fascinating decade. We had Thatcher, you had Reagan, we had the Falkland crisis, we had the Greenham Common nuclear bomb thing, we also had the miners' strike, we had huge amount of unemployment. It was kind of quite a grim period. So what was it? How did you navigate the 80s? Because obviously, you'd been in this band nearly 5 years. Things have been sort of, you have that optimism. Mostly bands fall out during some period, but not kind of during the first album too much, and especially getting kicked out of a band, which is horrible. Because you started the band, so to be kind of knocked outmaneuvered is kind of skullduggery, really, isn't it?
Well, I think I've left something out. So I left 2020, and I knew Barry left XTC, so I called Andy up, and Andy gave me Barry's number, and we sent tapes back to each other. And then Barry said, I'm interested in starting a band with you. So I left 2020, and like August, September of 79, November 3rd, 1979, I go to England. I already had been there in 71 and 77. I go to England to meet with Barry. I get out of the plane, get in my friend's car. I get out to get a Melody Maker magazine. I looked the wrong way, got hit by a car, broke my leg and ankle, and was in Charing Cross Hospital for a month.
Ooh.
And Clive Langer was interested in producing us. Barry came to see me there. Rob Dickens, who was the president of Warner Brothers, came to visit me. But I was had a cast up above my knee because I had 3 pins put in my ankle.
Ooh.
What a bummer.
Yes,
but that made Melody Maker. Said accidents will happen. Like that, and then I said Mike Gallo from 2020 comes to work with Barry Andrews and gets hit by a car in 30 minutes.
Yes, no, well, that nearly happened once.
Too much.
It was too much. So then, so as the 80s progresses, how do you then maneuver? You've kind of had a band with supporting you too. What's your next kind of musical part of this journey?
Well, here's the thing. There was so much great music coming out, between Prefab Sprout, Wire. I mean, it was unbelievable, right? To me, I was soaking it all up. And I've recorded 60, I have 68 to 72 songs recorded. I want to master them. I don't know. I mean, I have my own, my melodies in my head are my own, but I was just so invigorated and inspired with the music. Was Cowboys International, all this stuff was just so amazingly inspired. And Prefab Sprout's first album and Steve McQueen, I just blew me away.
Yes,
it's just brilliant.
I
got
saw
excited again.
Yes. Well, the Steve McQueen album by Prefab Sprout was just a classic because there's a classic, When Love Breaks Down and Bonnie and sort of Farron Young is just stunning. But When Love Breaks Down is, I think, their best song. But I'm a romantic, really. So the 80s indie scene, which I love so much, did you start sort of enjoying bands like the Smiths? Did they come into your
my God, yes. And be honest, the first time I played the first album, I go, I'm not sure about the voice. But like about the third time, I'm like, yeah, I was in love with the voice because the voice matched the lyrics, it matched Johnny Marr's guitar. I just like, this, and it was so different from the other bands. The Smiths just had a different thing.
Yes, they did have a different sensibility. Dear old Morrissey, we loved him, didn't we? So then as the 80s, so you mentioned Phil Spector at one stage. Where does he fit into the narrative?
Okay, so I was asked to book Madame Wong's, which was the indie club for indie bands, and Rodney Bingheimer brought Brian Wilson and Phil Spector to see us. Brian was messed up, felt his head ended up in his soup. I met Phil. Phil invited us 2020 to dinner 3 times at the Hamburger Hamlet. He seemed like, well, of course I thought he was a genius. I already knew that. And I'm like, we gotta take this serious. So he invited us to his house, me, Steve, Ron, and Chris. A limousine picked us up and brought us there, and we were kept there. We couldn't leave for 17 hours. But the guy, Phil, was playing our songs. 5 of them he played. 4 of them were mine. That started some of the problem. And he played with 2 hands, 5-finger chords. I was like, this guy's insane. It's just like an orchestra, and he's just on this grand piano. He wanted to produce us. I think we were all hesitant because we thought we were excited about having a record deal, and he wanted to do it. We got afraid that we'd never get out of the studio.
Right.
I regret that we didn't have him do it, because for me, it'd be an artifact. I mean, I don't care what it sounds like, but he would go up and down the stairs, and he was peeing his pants, and yeah. There was a girl there that had sent her out to get a pizza. She comes back. He locks her in the closet with these bars, but it's right against the living room. I'm like, oh my God. Ronnie called up, and he puts her on these corner speakers, these metal speakers, from the 50s or whatever. And I'm hearing them argue.
Right.
And he goes, Ronnie, you made yourself. I didn't make you, remember? I guess she was asking for money. But I'm like, I don't want to hear this. It's like, I can see that this is going to be, this working with him would be a problem. So I knew Johnny and Joey from the Ramones, and they knew about this. And I said, I don't know, guys, he's a genius, but I shared briefly my experience with him. Long story short, after they recorded with them, they told me that, he went in the parking lot and would shoot off the gun and da-da-da-da. And I hate violence. I don't know,
No. And during the 80s...
I really regret not doing that, though, Dave.
Yes.
I mean,
it would have been interesting, but you might be... I don't know. It could have gone either way. I know he did a good album with... interesting album with John Lennon, so that was quite
well,
good.
Yeah, right? I mean, I'm like, I told you about the Beatles, so the weirdest thing is, my mind wasn't thinking that he produced Let It Be and did John Lennon. I just felt I was my peer, I really wasn't, I'm not taken up by that. I just so much wanted to be blown away by somebody who would be working with me, because that's what I want. I'm a producer that blows me away. I want to blow away people. I want someone to blow away me. Other people, which I won't name, that's a threat to them. That's not a threat to me. Blow me away.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
what I want.
So then, as the 80s, we've sort of got Prefab Sprout, The Smiths, The Cure, people, all those groovy bands.
Tears for Fears, I met, I hung out with them. I had an interview with them for LA Weekly, actually.
Excellent. We love
I
that.
remember telling Roland, I go, you know what? You guys, everybody wants to rule the world to be number one. And Roland goes, no, shout. I go, no, because I had the importers and out. I was right.
Yeah.
I love them guys. I like.
So how did you manage to keep some sort of hustle going?
Say it again, Dave.
I said, how did you keep it sort of the hustle or making ends meet at this stage? Because obviously you've been in a band, you're no longer in a band, you're probably not at the, working in a regular job. So how were you navigating this kind of period in the 80s?
Well, I was asked a lot to do special DJs. I would DJ weddings and special parties and events, which would pay $500. And I was getting some royalties still from the album, I believe. And then I got some money from signing my publishing to Warner Brothers.
Right.
So I survived like that. Now, I went to England. I started sending my music to England, and I went back to England in 70, but ran out of money. And because I sold before I could get a record deal, but I had letters from many, many producers that were interested in producing us, like David Bascom, Mike Howlett, Martin Rushent. And I forgot to mention, so when I got signed publishing deal with Warner Chappell, John Anderson was living in LA. He found out, he heard it. I went to his house 3 times. I got a letter from him saying he wanted to produce my first album. The guy that signed me died. So there, I know, it's like a Ripley's Believe It or Not. But but I went to John's house about 4 times. And it was ironic because I had met him and saw him record Fragile, and here we are. That's 71. Now we're talking, 90, 91. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
But the guy that signed me was supposed to do the dealing with the labels, and I had no one to take his place, and he passed away from AIDS.
Blimey.
It was horrible timing, yeah.
Horrendous timing. So then, do you start a record label a little bit later, or have you got other musical adventures before because is it Two Moons Records that you set up? Right.
So I had 2020, then I did radio music, and then we played out live for about 3 months. That was with Steve Schiff, was in the band, who later worked in Nina Hagen and then co-wrote with Keith Forsey, Don't You Forget About Me. He built the studio, gave me free studio time for a month and a half, recorded a bunch of songs then. So that's like 83 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And then, trying to remember this. And then I started Two Moons, and we played out. We headlined the Whiskey and we headlined the Roxy. But I pulled the plug because the 5 members weren't creating what I was creating on 4-track. It just wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as playing live, I pulled that plug. But a friend I met at the publishing company ended up taking care of Ron Wood's recording studio in a bus.
Okay.
So he gave me free studio time. I recorded about 28 songs there in 95 to 96. So some people do play it forward. No, that was Paul Delph, who also died of AIDS later.
Christ,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
Horrible.
It's not good, is it?
But what a great guy. I met him. He was signed to Screen Gems, I believe. And we just clicked. He just was such an amazing friend. I mean, so I got control. My job is to take care of Ron Wood's bus studio, and I love what you're doing. It's a shame, I hear I'm going to give you, he didn't even say, he goes, however long it takes. So
right.
About 6 months he gave me of studio time.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Ron Wood.
And he actually was on John Anderson's albums too, which I don't know.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention that Greg Penny first took us in the studio, Warner Brothers, who ended up producing Katie Lang's album that won the awards. This is in '79 though.
Yeah, sure. So
and you know who's on those tapes sitting right next to me? Tom Petty.
Oh my God, Tom Petty.
I shouldn't have said this shit. I'm gonna get so many fucking phone calls. I own all this stuff. I need to trust somebody. I have all these tapes. I have everything right here.
Do you?
Yeah. Randy's Rickenbacker. He's on 5 songs. He's sitting right next to me. We click. Stan Lynch was a big fan of 2020. He would come on stage, right, Dave? At the Whiskey and play tambourine behind me. And I would have these crazy parties. He was always coming to the party.
Amazing.
So this is really cathartic for me, Dave.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So you've got an amazing archive of recordings just there.
Yeah.
My God, what are you going to do with them all?
What do you think I should do? Well, 2 weeks ago, David Bash said, you know what? I know, I don't want to get too detailed, but people that'd be interested in releasing their stuff. Now, I did not want to release anything. I kind of had it with the music industry, and I had a home invasion, and I just didn't want to deal with the stress. I just wanted to write music. I don't know, but something changed, and now I want to release this stuff because if I don't, when I die, then it doesn't get out. That's not right.
That's not good.
I put so much work into what I did do, Dave.
This is your life. This is your legacy. This is your archive.
Is. If you only knew how much of my life, it is my life. It's the only thing I love is animals and music. That's it.
That's a good combination. We love animals as well. So
what would you say? What would your input be about the way to go about releasing my stuff? I'm not sure if I should use the band name, my name, or I'm not sure.
I think you should take ownership and have it as your name, but also mention 2020. Because in a way, I guess you've never had any more relationships with any of the members of the band, have you?
Right. No.
And
Steve Allen called me and apologized for what they did for an hour and a half. In the last 15 minutes, I believe he was crying out loud, and he said Karma has been a bitch to him. That's what he said. I like Steve, but no, we haven't worked together. We're friends, and Chris definitely friends with, but we haven't worked together.
So you've done some healing,
Yeah.
But you've done something with Steve. You know, you've had that conversation.
Yes, right. Because that meant a lot to me from you calling me out of the blue. I didn't expect that. Now, I have to say, Ron called me up in '97 to play with them at South by Southwest.
Yes.
But I hung the phone up. And he's tried to friend me on Facebook. I just haven't accepted it yet. They say he's changed, but you know what? For me, the change would be, I don't know if they're talking about his changed about sexuality, but the change for me would be to fix that publishing deal the way it was. That would be what I want. Yes. It's not about the money. It's about it's the integrity. And it's like, how dare you do that?
No.
It's just like, Dwight said, give him a chance. And I haven't, this is recently. And, people said he's changed. And I wish if he's changed, the proof would be to put that publishing deal the way it was, which is 3-way. I don't know what the hell I signed. What the hell they not made me do, but I don't know what I signed. I would never think they would do. I think it was whatever, one person, but I Stephen Brown went to my house. I would never think they would do that.
Yeah.
So
it's a hard one. Yes.
I think people are telling me when I release whatever I release, I should use my name.
Definitely, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
just they're all songs I've written, and 3/4 of them or more, I'm singing. So
Absolutely.
that's what I think.
With just with Chris from the band, he becomes a record producer, doesn't he, as well in later life?
Mm-hmm.
So he works with one of my favorite bands where he's got the Redskins. Did you sort of keep a kind of, I don't know, a friendship with Chris?
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
So Chris
he was the balance of the band, because we got big so fast. I mean, it's crucial. I mean, we were playing at this like little restaurant on Fairfax Avenue, and like about 6 months later, we're headlining the Whiskey, selling out 2 shows Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I remember that. And so the thing was, I think, you never know how that kind of success or whatever. You don't know how different people react and change differently. Some people, Peter Gabriel told me this in a hotel room once. He goes, Mike, because they were starting to get big. This is when they're just selling by the pound. He goes, this is how it is. There's a hoop. And you are this person before you go through this hoop.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to start having success. You either don't go through the hoop and become the success and what you read, or you go through the hoop and you are the same person you were. I'll never forget that. This is like during Selling by the Pound. And he was so true to his words, because when the solo album came out, I bought tickets. I'm in line at the Roxy. He comes out of a limo and he sees me and pulls my hand, and one of my band members, I think Brian was on me day, pulls me and says, Mark, come with me. And we go up into, his dressing room and stuff. I love the guy.
Yes, absolutely.
That is, he went through the hoop and he stole Peter.
Well, absolutely.
And it meant so much when he said it. This is like 74. I mean, it's before I left for LA or anything. I mean, it's really, John and Peter were mentors to me. And I'm not a proud person. I love music. And it's just how it happened. It's just whatever. But they were very, very supportive and made such an impression on me. Because I was blown away by them both.
But artists, also, I mean, with Yes,
I respected them, so I
which
heard
is
what
good.
they said.
But I know with the Yes story, they've even got more of a messy relationship than any band. Yeah. I mean, there's like there's 2 groups, there's 2 Yes bands now.
Yeah, I remember being at John's house, like, where's Chris? He goes, he's gone there fucked up, pointing down to the valley. And like, I mean, I don't know really if it was John and Steve who were having an issue. I think Steve and John own the name. And kind of like Brian lets the Beach Boys go with the Beach Boys, I think John let Steve go with Yes, and John did his soul thing. I think it was just they had that camaraderie. So
I think John and Rick Wakeman are in one band, and then Steve and the other guys are in the other band.
That's kind of it.
And they've got these 2 bands called Yes, and it's almost like
that's right.
It's a bit tricky. But then someone told me there's I did an interview with a 70s band called the Rubettes, and I think there's 4 versions of this band. Each member of that band have got their kind of, my Rubettes, my Rubettes, my Rubette. It's all that kind of their name and then the Rubettes. So, and also I did an interview with a guy from Berkeley, James Harvest, and there's 2, there's like the 2 singer-songwriters have go on their separate way. So there's 2 versions of that band. So it is terrible. But what you're saying, Ian, is really the problem with 2020. Really, it was the fact that they were so unpleasant about your sexuality and that publishing that absolutely broke your heart.
Well, there's another part to this. So we record I Need Somebody, which I wrote before I met them. And then in the afternoon of one of the days, someone from CBS comes in and says, that's going to be the first single. So between that Ron changed after that, because I wrote that alone before I met them. And between that, it seems like, and then my sexuality, that's when the shit hit the fan, so to speak. because, and I didn't care because, like I said, the publishing was 3 ways anyway. So that was his ego, I guess. I don't really know. All I know is someone came in and said, I need somebody to give me the first single, which was the first song we would play in our set. And I don't know. I just remember that, and we recorded it. We didn't finish it. Why? Obviously, probably why? Because it was going to be the single. That was separate. I was trying to just navigate this relationship with a member about my sexuality and trying to stay. I was crying when I would go home. It was humiliating, embarrassing, and what I felt that did is I had that to hold, or I don't want to say that, but have that to hold against me, and that with the drinking, because I was drinking because of that recording. I felt trapped. Like, I don't know, like something, my self-confidence was whatever. And that's when I made that stupid move of signing whatever piece of paper I signed with this publishing thing, thinking no one and that our band would ever do such a thing as that.
Yes, that is, that
it's
is
crazy.
So when did you start to feel quite different about, I mean, there's kind of a lot of pain about the band still, but did you start to feel different about your sexuality after the 90s? Did things start to feel a little bit more like it was a normal thing?
Yeah, especially after bands I loved, like Pet Shop Boys and various bands were coming out in England. Yeah, yes. I felt like I'm normal. You can't force yourself to be attracted to somebody. You are attracted to who you're attracted to. And then England, really, like I was hanging out with Mark Bolan in 1977 at Heaven when I went there, and they were all just free being what they were, That really, really, Dave, that really helped me a lot.
Yeah, and then in the 80s we had Tom Robinson, then we had the Coming Art, then we had Bronski Beat, the Bronski Beat, and then we had the Pet Shop Boys, and then I don't know,
Erasure,
yes, and Vince Clarke as well. So I guess the UK sort of like, I don't know, but it was interesting because a few years ago I did an interview with a kind of a person who did a book about, I don't know, about 60s. It was called The Velvet Mafia, and it was about sort of the 50s and 60s, all these music managers who were all gay, but they all had to be repressed. Because
what's the name of the book, Dave? We write that down.
Oh, I'll send it to you. It was called The Velvet. Okay, The Velvet Mafia, and it's all about the kind of, I suppose,
underground gay men.
No, not underground. They were all the people who ran the music industry, like the manager Epstein, and all the people who were who were sort of having to be repressed, but then everyone knew that they were sort of. I'll find the title of the book for you, but it got a lot of good press actually.
Yeah, I would like to read that.
Yeah,
I'm at peace with my sexuality. Here was a crazy. I wanted to throw things out there that just blew my mind. I got like a bubble and it said, "Henry Epstein wants to friend you." I'm like, "For real? Is this for real?" And it was him. I'm going, and he called. I've talked 15 times on the phone now because we're friends. But I'm like, why? I still don't even know why.
Yes, but then
it's just like, because I wasn't online until 2 years ago.
Amazing. I mean, do you sort of feel like now there's more of an urgency for you to sort of look at those archives, look at what you've done, and try and sort of put your focus into putting out all the stuff that that is your life?
Yeah, I actually do, Dave. I do. And God bless my friends that I don't really know physically, but the letters, messages I've gotten, they saved my life. They really, them and Dwight. There was the worst period I was so close to something bad about, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, was that, Dave? 3 weeks ago.
Oh my God.
And Dwight and people like Jordan Oakes and Paul Collins and a few other people, Debbie Scow, they literally saved my life. I mean, I just, between what they, Crystallology, calmed me, just the pain of not having recognition that other people were stealing from me and I didn't know that. And it just, how could you, the integrity I thought that people, it was just just like cathartic. I was just, like I wrote, I said I had an epiphany, and I really did, from these people. It just changed. I'll never be the same like that. And again, it changed me. So I feel so safe to change my heart and my soul. These people.
And that was only 3 weeks ago. My God, that was
it was bad.
You were close.
I wrote something like, I truly wish I never was born, or something. I don't know. And so this internet, sometimes I'm very open. Like my mom always just say, Mike, you're like an open book growing up, right? And so I did that, and I meant it, and it was bad. And I didn't even realize, I didn't even think that, I don't know, I just felt like I was like writing down on a piece of paper with a pencil, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was bad. It was very, 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 the worst. I'll never be like that again. Right? These people changed my life. Dwight Twilley, Crystallology, Debbie Scow, Jordan Oakes, Paul Cobb. I just want to give them a shout out.
Yeah, well, absolutely. My God, that sounds...
Dave Lambert.
It's kind of a list. But then, I mean, hopefully... I mean, it's always things like this. Pardon?
I'm a nobody, really, So, I mean, who knows who I am? I didn't expect that. That's all I'm saying.
No,
because it's from their hearts. It's just I just didn't expect it.
No,
the words and what am I'm forgetting Steve Schiff, what he wrote. And we've been through hard times with this COVID, trying to navigate through that. And we've been so isolated, right? So that combined with realizing that I signed my publishing over, like those two things I thought, like, why bother anymore? It's like, I don't know. It's just a bad day, bad, scariest day I ever had in my life. But it's over, and I really did have an epiphany. And how? Because I was not going to do interviews because of all this stuff, right? It's complicated, it's emotional. But I'll tell you something, I had the best life in my life that I can imagine, because I was a little kid with a dream, and what the heck are the odds coming from where I'm kind of wanted to Buffalo to be, for that period of time, which was about a year, the biggest band in LA. I never would have thought. I mean, that's pretty amazing. I don't know if you can see this picture.
No, I can't. Show us this picture.
Can you see this picture?
No, just hold it up a bit higher. Yes, the little kid at the piano.
It's me.
Oh my God, that's so cute. You need to hug. You need to love.
That should be the cover of the album.
That is definitely the cover. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Sometimes.
And that they pulled that off from me too. I mean, it's amazing what something you would never think of could change your world, your life, your thoughts, the way your mind works.
Yes, I know. It's a difficult one.
Many people,
I was going to say, sometimes you
people rock on suicide, like Prince and Michael Jackson, however, these amazing artists.
Yeah.
And I know the pain, I've been there. It's very, very much like walking on a tightrope sometimes.
Yes. And I guess hitting the bottom is at least one part of that journey. But then I think seeing that photograph of your child, yourself as a baby, and then also sort of appreciating all the things that you've done with all your music and archiving. And if you can get a focus to sort of go forward and a project, it will, it could. I think appreciating what you've done and not having the voice in in your head, sort of always thinking what didn't happen, and focusing on what you can control. If you can focus on what you can control rather than what you can't control. You can't control other people's emotions and actions. You can't go back and change the past, but you can take that moment to move forward for the future, and that can be quite empowering when you sort of realize you
and part of that epiphany I said, time only moves forward, and I'm going with it. Time doesn't move backward. Doesn't matter. It's can't sit and ruminate about the past.
No.
Or the what ifs, the what could have been. You can't. Or let that pain from the past control your life now. Because that's all we got is now. And it's like I just said, it's like time only moves forward, so I got to go with it, because that is the reality. And you can change the future. You can change now. I mean, that's one thing we do have control of.
So when you wake up tomorrow, what you can do is have three kind of things that you're grateful for, which could be just being able to stand up, being able to feel the wind on your face or the light coming through the window, and just feel grateful for those three. If you start the day like that, sometimes it can make you think, actually, I'm lucky because I can see. Some people can't even see, or I can feel, or I can hear. Some people can't do that. And sometimes I sort of realize that those things can be quite powerful, because you think, I do take an awful lot for granted, and start focusing on the negative things. Whereas sometimes thinking, no, just be grateful for the very small things in life, like being able to walk, or being able to see, or being able to hear. And you think, my life is a bit of a miracle. But you can't change that publishing deal. You can't change what people did 40 years ago, but you can change somehow what you're going to focus on. And that can sometimes be a powerful thing.
Right, because going through the past, you're going through a rabbit hole that you can't change, and you're just falling and falling and falling, and then you see all these, and you're, when you're in that mode, you're just seeing all these regrets, and it's just a continuous fall. It's a rabbit hole, and it does nothing productive about it.
Yes,
and you have no control, and that's what I realized. That's the epiphany, a part of what's changed me so deeply. I'm so grateful for that change. So very grateful.
Yeah.
And also, I'm telling you, you really, just that little thing about the interview, I'm going to do this. That really sparked me. I go, someone cares to hear me. So thank you so much for that, Dave.
Well, no, it's absolutely.
You don't know. I'm telling you that.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
No, and I appreciate your sort of, honesty as well, and integrity, and just being kind of open in this moment, because that's all we've got. We're just two human beings on this weird planet.
I'm very comfortable talking to you, and it's just cathartic for me. And I think what I'd like to do is, when I get my music digital, and so you could hear some of it, we could do another connection where I could play some of the stuff for you. It's up to you if you want to.
I would love to hear your music, and I'd love to know how you get on with your archiving, because I'd love archiving. It's something that you should drop me a line every week to tell me what you've done archiving, and then
that's good,
because I just love to hear what people get up to, and I love hearing people doing projects, however small or big. It's just like it's that positive focus. It's about it's not someone moaning or being negative. It's like, yep, I've started working on this project and it's feeling good.
Getting unstuck, right?
You got to move through it.
And I'm very much there. A couple of people have said they're interested in releasing it. I want to look into and put out there who I would like to master them, because that's all they need to be done.
Yes.
So I'm thinking maybe early next year, hopefully I put them out. That's what I'm thinking, which is great, because I need to have something to look forward to. You need that.
You do need that. We all need that, don't we? And a good cup of coffee, and a cat or a dog.
You have to have that.
We have to have that. Look, Mike, I'm going to have to, I might have to make it. But look, thank you so much. Do keep in touch. And I've sent you the link to this. I dropped a sort of message in your page on Facebook,
Okay.
just to say what that book is, because it's a good book. It won lots of awards and stuff like that. So you'll like it. You'll like it. But look,
I know I will. And my best friend here since I was 16, I'm at record stores, a book reader fanatic. He reads every day. He just wrote, he wants to read it too.
Good.
So that'd be great.
Give my love to your friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Zwicky's name is.
Give yourself a hug. I'll give
you got it.
Lots of love to both of you, okay? Take care.
I will. I'll keep you posted, and I so much appreciate this chance and opportunity.
Yes.
Really.
Look,
thank you so much.
All the best, okay?
All right. You have a good week.
You too. Have a great weekend and enjoy the life. Take care, matey. Bye-bye.
Bye, my friend.
Bye. There you go. I know I could have edited all that out, but it made me smile, and that's what's the only and most important thing in life. Anyway, look, a massive thank you to Mike Gallo for giving me the time for that interview. And hopefully we'll be, hearing more from him soon. Anyway, this has been the C86 Show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just do C86 Show. Keep it positive. Keep it groovy. That's what we say here. And also, all these interviews have been archived. Aren't you lucky? So you can find those on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. True. Anyway, look, have a great week. Stay safe.